Now for an update and, of course, analysis of this unfolding story in American politics. We're being joined from Washington, D.C. by our Rise correspondent, Rotimi Kade. Rotimi, good morning. Good to have you on the morning show. Well, the impeachment of President Trump has been described as historic. The first American president to be impeached twice. The first American president to lose the popular vote twice. And the first American president to be caught in this kind of very peculiar storm. Now, does this make him the worst American president in history?
Well, Abati, good morning. Good morning to you guys as well. I think it's historic in many ways, just as you've stated. It's also very historic. Looking at the bipartisan votes that was taken, this is the very first in modern history that we've seen parties from the other side, talking about Republican parties, joining forces to impeach their own president. But again, talking about whether to call him the worst president ever, I mean, it's quite debatable. Some Republicans and some supporters of the president would tell you otherwise. That is the best president the U.S. has ever had. It's a matter of perspective, Abati, and I think that going forward, the battleground is now going to be in the Senate, where Democrats are hoping that they're going to have the sympathy of Republicans to convict and also remove the president from office. But there's been a lot of options that are very open in case they couldn't get the required number, about 17 Republican senators, to actually remove the president from office. It's quite being debated right now, and they're looking at other options of perhaps taking a second vote. A second vote will require just a simple majority to actually bar the president for contesting for any federal office in the future.
Well, Rotimi, how hard would it be for the Democrats to rid themselves of the accusations that this was a witch hunt? This was vengeance for 4 years of President Donald Trump's administration. The debate is it safer to leave? Is it safer to leave the president in office, which is more dangerous, to remove him immediately from office or to impeach him? Because the Republicans are arguing that this will lead to more division in America. So how easy would it be for the Democrats to rid themselves of such an accusation?
Well, it's going to be very, very hard. I think Democrats are charging on because they have the numbers. Now the tide has actually changed. They have the presidency, they have the Senate, technically, and they also have the House of Representatives. So they definitely are not listening to the Republicans at this time. The Republicans charted a different tone today. If you watch the proceedings, they were calling for calm, they were calling for unity. A lot of them felt that the president did not incite insurrection, that the president was actually quoted out of contest. And they were trying to actually buy the Democrats to reason along that same line. But the Democrats are not taking that because they feel they have the numbers. Though it could have some political consequences in the future, we don't know. But at this point in time, I think they think that they have the ace and they can do whatever they want. But again, when you look at how divided the GOP, talking about the Republicans, senators, and the House member have been in the past 48 hours or 1 week since the insurrection in the Capitol Hill, you want to say that this is an advantage on the part of Democrats to actually eat into the fabric of the Republican Party and, of course, buy many of them over to carry out whatever mission they have for the president's remaining days.
A lot of people are pointing at, and good to see you again, Rotimi, a lot of people are pointing strongly at midterm elections. They're saying those 10 Republicans, including the likes of Liz Cheney, Vice President Dick Cheney's daughter, and people that voted against Trump, will have it hard for them during the midterm election. I mean, what are the machinations and the calculations leading up to the midterm election? Because that's where a lot of people are saying Republicans are waiting big time. Because let's not forget, 74 million people voted for this president. So he's quite popular.
Yes, you're right, Rafai, and good to see you again. I think there's been a lot of blowback for the 10 Republicans that actually voted for the impeachment of the president. Earlier today, some hardline supporters of the president are already calling for a removal because she's very powerful within the Republican ranks. She's a third high-ranking official in the House, and they believe that holding such position shouldn't make her to compromise, especially when the majority of Republicans are with the president. So that is most likely going to be another discussion they're going to be having when the Republican conference will come up in a week's time. And I think this is also really going to affect which candidates they're going to field for the midterm elections. That's another big chance for the Republicans to actually come back big and win either the Senate and, of course, the House. But there's been a really big debate when you heard a majority leader who will become a minority leader, Mitch McConnell, making statements like he doesn't know how to vote when the article of impeachment will be debated on the floor of the Senate next week. That tells you that a lot of them are tired of President Trump and they want to move forward without him. This is very strange, and this is what we used to know. I mean, like in the past 3.5 years, when the president seemingly became the most powerful Republican president we've seen in modern history.
The House Majority Leader has said that the articles of impeachment will be sent immediately to the Senate. But clearly, if you look at the timelines, that matter cannot be entertained by the Senate until after Tuesday or thereabouts. And there's no way it can be resolved before inauguration on January 20. Now, what are the implications for the Biden presidency itself? The presidency starts, and then it's saddled with this big issue about the conviction or the trial of former president, as he would then be, Donald Trump.
Well, so to begin to unpack this, first of all, we have to understand that this is a very strange situation. There's never been a president or a former president who has been on trial even after leaving office in modern history. Donald Trump will be the first, and there's been a lot of debate whether there will be a lot of court cases that will come up, whether the Senate actually have the power to prosecute Trump even after leaving office. That's still quite debatable. But again, Mitch McConnell is going to be the minority leader from Tuesday going forward. And of course, we have the minority leader now, Chuck Schumer, who is going to take over. He has promised that they're going to pursue the conviction of and perhaps maybe the conviction of the former president, Donald Trump. But again, you know, it throws a lot of legal questions. First of all, do you have the powers to do that? Secondly, is that even after leaving office, can you bar the president from holding any political office in the future? Some Republicans are saying that's the aim of completely making the president ineffective and somewhat not being able to contest for the elections come 2024, because there's a huge fear that there could be some sort of comeback from the Trump campaign. However, some scholars have actually said that that is possible, because when you look at 14th Amendment, Section 3 of 14th Amendment, which says that if any citizen of the state of the United States actually is seen as being part of an insurrection against the Constitution, he or she would not be able to hold any federal office, And they're looking at that, and that will be an easy path for the Democrats to actually nail the president once and for all.
Rotimi, from an insurrection to an impeachment in the space of 1 week, very unusual times for America. But what was also unusual for me yesterday was listening to President Donald Trump's 5-minute taped message, and he didn't mention the impeachment. It was a very remarkable speech from him. He talked about reconciliation. He denounced the rioters for the first time. Do you think that the president has learned his lessons in a very hard way? Any possibility that he would be resigning, perhaps? We do know he's not attending the inauguration. Do we know where he would be, where he would go, and what the next 7 days holds for President Donald Trump?
Well, first of all, I think a resignation is going to be out of it. The president doesn't look like it's going to be resigning anytime soon. If there's any sign that he's going to resign, I think he's going to do that before the second impeachment. From the statement you heard from him, even after he was impeached twice, it was a little bit, very unusual of the president. Is him with a very strong rhetoric, but we heard that the president has been prevailed upon by many Republicans who feels that the president should tune down his rhetoric in a way to gain that national appeal. But again, some also argue that this actually set the stage for the debate of convicting the president in the Senate, and of course his removal, because obviously, even though the fact that the president has come out to deny that he never had any part in the insurrection we saw last week, they are also saying that the president may have a better chance with some of the senators moving forward. But again, we have to look at whether the president would want to continue with this term for the next 7 days. Well, options are up for president, but he has promised, first of all, that there's going to be a smooth transition of power to the Biden administration, and we understand that the Trump administration officials are cooperating with the Biden transition team, which is very unusual. It's too little too late, because within a week you can turn many things around. Despite the fact that the message we heard from him is a little bit sobering, the president is yet to actually admit the fact that he lost the election and lost it fair and square.
Right. So there's another talk in the wings now, probably in the bid to nail Trump properly and nail the coffin of his political antecedents and political history. Will be charging him in the federal court. So New York Times was talking about Section 373, and also Section 2102, to be able to charge Trump, for inciting a riot and violence and things like that. I mean, how easy is that going to be? Owing to the fact that two main people, two constitutional doyens in America, constitutional law doyens, the likes of Professor Alan Dershowitz, emeritus professor in Harvard of Law, and Professor Turley, they've both come out to say that those things Trump said were not inciting to violence, and you can't hold him by that.
Exactly. I think there have been debates, in addition to what you said, there have been debates about whether the president can pardon himself. Yes, he can do that, and we're likely to see that in the next few days to come. But when the president pardons himself, that is just limited in the sense that he cannot prosecute him on a federal crime, or you can charge him on a federal crime. And of course, but again, you remember that the president has a lot of states litigation against him, like especially in New York. So whatever he attempts to do now to pardon himself, that does not immune him from being prosecuted from different states. And that's most likely what we're going to see, because the action continues even after leaving office. But again, we have two great scholars who 1 year ago was we're defending the president impeachment of the House last year, and they're going to come out again. That's almost like the best we've seen in the U.S. Law of fraternity, and they're going to be arguing word for word whether the president actually incites violence, and we know, that these people actually are very, very good with what they do. So most likely, it's just going to be something that we're going to be seeing that is quite unprecedented. And I think the Biden administration is going to be starting on a very bad note in the sense that it's going to be a lot of distraction. There's a lot of distraction right now because of what is happening, and there's going to be a lot of distraction as it, starts its mission as the president of the United States. And the spotlight is still going to be on the president, former President Trump back then, whether he should be convicted. He's going to be the first, just the first president to be convicted even after office. So there's a lot of odds going against the president.
Well, Rotimi, I have just two questions for you, which you have to respond to after the break. The first is this: what is the future of the Republican Party in the light of all of this? We've seen 10 of them are breaking ranks with their own party. Even those who did not vote to impeach the president will not openly identify with him. You see many Republicans drawing away from Trump and his influence within the party. And then as a Nigerian, observing all of these stories, what kind of lessons do you think come across to you that strike you significantly as, takeaways? But we'll take a short break now. When we return, you get a chance to respond to those questions. Thank you very much indeed. Welcome back to the morning show here on the Arise News channel. Still with us from Washington, D.C. is Arise Correspondent Rotimi Kade, who has been analyzing the American situation, the impeachment of President Trump for a second time, historic second time. Yes, Rotimi, I had asked you two questions before we went on break: the future of the GOP and also lessons that come across to you as an outsider in America observing all of this crisis.
Well, Abati, from what we're hearing, majority of Republicans, both elected and just MEF supporters, are actually looking at moving on with their future without President Donald Trump. They feel that he started well, but it was carried away midway, and feel that it was quite untouchable in many sense. And as a result of that, they lost a lot. They lost the presidency, they lost the two houses, both House of Senate and, of course, House of Representatives, and more losses, and more particularly the brand of the Republican Party going forward. And I feel that at this point in time, Donald Trump is not going to be in the best position to actually, get the Republican Party all the political gains that they might envisage in the future. But again, you cannot just wish away Donald Trump. As Rufai said earlier, 72 million people actually voted for him in this election. I can tell you that majority of the people that you see that besiege the Capitol Hill are town supporters of President Trump. And they feel that President Trump is the only messiah that can take, give them all the whatever they desire, or perhaps maybe the President Trump is the only president in a modern history that actually understand what they feel. So a Republican Party without Donald Trump is as dangerous as a Republican Party with Donald Trump.
Well, I asked you about lessons that you can...
Well, I think I would say, talking about lessons, there are a lot of lessons that we can learn from here. First of all, power is actually transient. I mean, there's nothing, permanent. If anybody tells you that 1 year ago, or perhaps maybe 2 years ago, Donald Trump would not be elected as or return as president of the United States, definitely you're going to argue with them. In fact, you guys, you may even put a wager on it that he's definitely going to return, because a lot of things were going on for him. The economy was very, very strong before the pandemic, and he's been seen as somebody who's an outsider in Washington, who people can actually relate with. So, but the turn of events actually is what took the president from that pedestal of being the most, perhaps the very popular man in Washington to somehow, a common man. Because look at it, all the things that made him powerful, like the social media platforms that where he spew a lot of, rhetoric, and he's been taken away from him. He doesn't have any, so to speak, medium apart from the White House media entities that's using currently. The president is very, very, very sober at this time. He never believed that such things would happen at this time, and he would be just like an ordinary citizen. A lot of people feel that he's angry, and perhaps maybe going forward he's going to be learning great lessons. And of course, that tells you about anybody who's aspiring for political office. No matter how popular you are, there's definitely a time for everything. Even the Holy Book says that.
Well, thank you very much, Rotimi Kade, for your time. Thank you very much indeed.